Kerry, your computers in schools, how's it going?
It's going well. The competition's still running. It goes through till the 15th of June, and we've started getting quite a good number of entries in. So just wanted to, encourage schools again to get those entries in. And it's about a competition by Hewlett-Packard. They've put up $25,000 towards hardware and software and technology solutions for rural schools, schools under 300 students. So, put an application in, get creative, tell us what you can do, what it would mean to you at your school for that, and perhaps even what it might mean to your wider community and how it might support the community as well. So
for the 3 schools that haven't applied yet, do they go to your website?
Yeah, they do. They can certainly download the entry form and all the criteria from our website. So.
Gypsy Day.
Oh yes, the annual thing. Everyone's on the move. The road's full of removal trucks and herds of cows going everywhere, so there's a lot happening, and obviously it's a stressful time for those families going to a new property, not quite sure what they'll find. We hear a lot of stories about the housing. Sometimes it's the quality of housing, sometimes it's the state it's been left in, so I guess if you're moving out, make sure you leave it in a state that you'd be happy to move into yourself.
Yeah, but the temptation's there, isn't it?
Well, it is, but I think a lot of employers do help because they include in the contract that the state the house has to be left in, and they're regularly inspecting them. But we do hear some horror stories that people arrive at the house and after a long journey, kids, family, everyone's ready to move in, and they've got to clean the house because it's in a horrible state or it's full of rubbish or all these horrible things that you hear. So really would encourage people to make sure the houses are in good state. And also, these are new people in the community. They don't know anyone, they don't know what goes on in your community, so a real call out for people to make them welcome. A lot of communities do really well. They have welcome functions, down at the hall after a couple of weeks' time, get everyone in, get to meet everyone. And some communities go right to the extent of having a mini expo, and they have all the interest groups or sports clubs have a little display and show what they do, so that the new people get to know what goes on in that community and can make some friends and find out where the squash club is or the rugby club or where the mum's morning group meets and all those things. And that's really important in helping a family get familiar in their new community and make them feel welcome.
And of course the children go to a new school.
They do, and that's a huge thing, and stressful for them and their family, and also for the children at the school, welcoming new ones in. And we do know, Education Department can tell us that when a child changes school, they lose the terms learning, just in that whole reshuffle, settling in, getting to know new children, new friends, finding out where they're at with their learning, and for the teachers to bring them up to speed with what they're doing in their class. They can actually lose up to a term in learning, and that's quite important in a child's education at different stages, particularly if they're at NCEA level and they lose a term of learning. That's really quite damaging, so we have to be very careful.
Yes, I was thinking that the
process
is not the older ones.
But yeah, they change at all age groups, and certainly for the wee ones, reading and writing, and they've lost that key part of learning. It's can be quite damaging.
New school uniforms too.
New school uniforms, very costly, school fees and things, and especially if they're moving every year. That's
which a lot of them do.
A lot of them do, and it can make a huge difference to the education of the children. So, it's a hard time.
I guess that's sort of one of the barriers, because you guys are very good at seeing barriers and knocking them down.
And I think women find that really hard. They move, they've got no friends, they've lost their support network. So they come to a new location and need to build those support networks again. And we see a lot of barriers for rural women, and it's not just around social isolation. A lot of it is simply around government policies and the way projects and programs are funded. If you look, for example, at the breast screen mammogram bus, it's great, it goes out to lots of communities, but you can only use the bus if you're aged between 45 and 69. Because that's the targeted age group of where women are most at risk. So if you're outside that, you can't use the bus. You have to go to the city and pay for your mammogram. Now that's quite a barrier for a lot of women. And it just seems ridiculous that the bus might be parked in your town, but you can't use it. And that's really discriminatory. And we have a lot of silly little rules like that are quite discriminatory towards women, unintentionally so, but that's the outcome.
In that case, it's rules set by men, I suppose. But,
you're not
going to go there, are
No,
you?
I'm not going to go there today. But I think, part of that is that policies can often be set without doing a proper rural impact assessment and working out just how it will work in practice. And sometimes we have things happen that just don't work common sense-wise. We see that also in support for women, particularly during times of stress.
God,
and like,
there's
for
bucket
example,
loads
at the
of it out there.
moment with the drought and the stress, all the support programs are designed to support the farmer and keep the farm business operating. But there's nothing in place for the women and children and supporting them, and it's an incredibly stressful time for them as well. So we're doing some things to help, just doing some days out and some events to help women and take the pressure off. But it is a really stressful time for the women, but there's no real support package. The support package put out by Minister of Primary Industries, MPI, the Adverse Events Funding, is for farmer support. And it's really difficult, we need to find funds and a way of supporting the women and children. And to have children growing up and living in a stress-charged environment is really can be quite damaging for them. And we also know that there's a lot of research saying that when there's adverse events and very stressful times, things like domestic violence and abuse do rocket up. And we have quite a lot of evidence. There's been research that can say it can be up to 100% increase in family violence, and it's all to do with the stress. And if there's no support for that, it makes it very hard. So in rural, we have problems where there's no women's refuge for women. And also in this last week, we saw relationship services fall over, where they provided a lot of those support services like anger management courses and parenting through difficult times, budgeting, all those things that would have helped a family are now gone from the rural sector. So we need to put a lot more effort from our government into making sure that those unintended barriers aren't there.
Because when the farmer, as you were suggesting, being the male, when he clicks, and the women have got nowhere to run to.
No, they haven't, and there's no support for them. And often, if the whole farm falls over, you've lost the house as well. So the woman's not only got her own stress of the situation, she's trying to manage the stress of her children and support her partner as well. So the stress loading on the woman is, in some cases, actually higher than it is on the farmer themselves.
And you're sitting looking down the barrel of workers who suddenly get, I'm sorry, we can't afford 3 families, we can only afford 2.
Yeah, and in those cases, it's not just that you've lost your job, you've lost your home as well.
Yep, and nobody wants to take you on because everybody's cutting back.
Everyone else is in the same position, so it becomes incredibly difficult. And in the rural sector, where all those support services seem to be spanning back into the cities, it's really hard. It's about access to the service. It's all very well to say, oh yes, well you can have counselling, you can have this and that, but in the rural sector, often those brief intervention counselling sessions, there's a 4 to 6 week wait, which is too long.
It's too late.
It's often too long. And if you can't do that and you have to go private, it's $60, $70 a time every time you go. And you may have to go to the city. So you've got all those unintentional barriers that are there around supporting women and children in the rural sector that we're really wanting to see a lot more work done. One of the problems around that
I was just going to say, quickly,
is that government won't put in place an action plan for women. Even though they've been requested to by United Nations, they won't do that.
I think you guys need to do some rattling of some
Absolutely.
cages, Kerry. Thank you very much
Thank
indeed.
you.